How's everybody doing today? Let's see. I always struggle streaming. Let's get everybody in here. Hopefully, everybody's having a good Friday. I think I'm losing track of time due to the holidays. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Happy Friday, TGIF. Shout out to my man Jim R. Can I get a one in the chat? Good morning. Shout out to my man Larry, the best PM on YouTube. We need to get it, make sure he get his channel up and running. I know he's a busy man. Can somebody give me one in the chat? Shout out to GMR. Shout out to Larry. There's my one. I appreciate it. Shout out to Study GRC. They talk for 20 minutes and then nobody can hear them. So that's why I always double check my one in the chat. Shout out to my man Ty. Happy New Year. I appreciate all the ones. Shout out to my man Miguel on LinkedIn. I got to do a little better on the LinkedIn side. Shout out to Sarah Myers. Thanks for joining me. Shout out to Robert Berry. Oh, LinkedIn must have passed my stuff around. Shout out to LinkedIn. Shout out to my man Luis. He got the PCI, CISP, CSA, ITIL, CISM, CRIS, CMMC. I like all of those. I'm working on my CISSP. I've been kind of lazy. You mean a 1-1? I appreciate you. Once again, seems like we got a couple new people. Everybody know me. I'm Professor Black Ops. I've been in IT for 35 plus years. I've been in cybersecurity for 15. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science. I programmed for 10 years. I used to work at DOD as a consultant. When I was at DOD in the mid 2000s, China was whipping up on us, and they got everybody started in cybersecurity. I've been doing this 800-53 off and on probably for 15 years. So shout out to my man, Dr. Finesse. Happy New Year. Shout out to Regine. So you see it. Shout out to ChatGPT for helping PBO with his images. They look a lot better. So I've been seeing a lot of on LinkedIn and Indeed. Everybody's talking about AI governance. So what does that mean when you're talking about a FedRAMP assessment? Or shout out to my man, CMMC is the new DOD assessment. I'm not a big CMMC fan, but I'm old and grumpy. But so when they're doing AI, what are they looking for in your assessment package? Right. Most people know I do a lot of IRS Pub 1075, which sits on top of NIST 100-53. So those really my SMEness. So in those assessment packages, what artifacts are they looking for AI? So we're just going to talk a little bit about that. The reason I do it is because I didn't know. So I said, once again, I see AI governance. So I'm used to the data flow diagram, system boundaries, system inventory, configuration management, risk planner. So those are the standard plans and policies, procedures. I've been doing those forever. All right, I'll let ChatGPT generate me a template and fill those in. But from an AI perspective, I didn't know what that was. So we're going to walk through what does that look like and what they're asking for. And most people know that came here is my cloud of choice is AWS. I have a couple AWS certs. And when I do compliance, especially from a senior perspective, I like to know the architecture. So once again, that's why I got my AWS certification. Once again, you know how we do it. Put any questions, tech or cybersecurity in the chat box, and we're going to get rolling. Let's go. So let's start off with what would the executive summary for your AI will look like. Depending on your workload, are you doing straight artificial intelligence, a little LLM, a little generative, once again, large language model? Are you doing predictive models? Are you doing all the above? So in your second executive summary, let you know when you're doing plans, you always have an executive summary in that. So that's kind of where I put that at. How are you hosting it? Once again, since I do AWS, they have their SageMaker, Amazon Bedrock, or you can do a custom AI stack inside Bedrock. 2, what's your system data sensitivity? You see it right there, PII, PCI, CUI, internal public. Once again, depending on your federal agency of choice, you can have some HIPAA and high trust in there, right? Once again, CGIS if you're doing some FBI work. But once again, what is your data sensitivity, or I always call it data classification? What's your business justification? Shout out to Larry. He does that federal type work. We always got to have business justification in there. AI workload is required to support what? Customer service, risk scoring, automation, analytics, revenue goals. No feasible alternative exists that meets operational requirement without material disruption. Right. So that's usually what you say. Well, we really need this product. If not, we're going to lose money. Right. So that's that corporate / federal verbiage they want to see in there. And 2 is who's owning this. All right. Who's the owner? Who's the risk owner? What's their name, title, and signature? Residual risk rating. Is it low, moderate, or high? A lot of times when it's high, I say it's life or death. If we're talking about nuclear codes or electric grid, or I was working on this IRS Pub 1075 contract, and the guy said, "Hey, we want this to be high." I'm like, "IRS data is moderate, man. People don't die because your tax return gets stolen." But once again, the client wanted high, so I told the PM if they want it high, I can scope it to be high. It's going to cost more money, right? You got to have better encryption keys. A lot of times in high, they don't want you to have a shared responsibility. I see Jim. Shout out to Jim. And he has the best team in Cosplay, but truly all facts, man. I was just saying that. My mentor has got interviewed. He has season tickets to IU for a decade. We both said we thought we would die before we see IU ranked #1 in the planet. But come on, Jim, stay on task. Now, shout out to Jim. The 2 is the acceptance duration. Months recommended, must be reevaluated on the model updates or new findings. So a lot of times people ask me, how long will it take to get FedRAMP or blah, blah. I usually tell them it depends the maturity of your organization. A lot of times it usually takes up to 6 months to a year. It's not my documentation is, do you have real configuration management? Do you have really CI, CD pipelines where you mature, where you can spin out something in production, have automated tests, have automated vulnerability scans, have automated compliance scans? That takes a while to set up for a mature company. That's a totally different architecture set up for them. Then to that, once again, your maturity. A lot of times you get a vulnerability scan. If it's a Cat 1, you got 7 days to fix it or 30 days to fix it. Do you have the infrastructure, once again, to fix it, test it, get it in production, get it signed off on? A lot of times that's the maturity. Now we add an AI to the total package. So if you look at the NIST RMF package, some of these risk IDs came out of that. So we're just going to kind of flow through them real quick. Once again, if you got any questions, tech or cybersecurity, put them in the box. Let me get my big face off the screen. Happy New Year, Xavier. Thanks for joining. Model hallucinations. Shout out to Chris. We always talk about model hallucination. So incorrect or fabrication of results. Likelihood is a medium. Impact is high. Risk treatment, human review in the loops, or you have guardrails. We'll talk about that. Bedrock has built-in guardrails for their AI, meaning that if you're going to talk about money, you're going to talk about certain medical things, you can't do it. The guardrail says this type of language you have to send to tier 2 to a human to actually walk through that with a person. We actually did a video where a Canadian Airlines gave somebody bereavement information to be refunded a flight, and it did it all wrong, and they got bad press about that. So the question is there should have been a human in the loop anytime you're talking about refunds or credits to flight. That should never come out the AI. And the guardrails will make sure price doesn't come out once again and push you to a human in the loop. And we're going to talk about how do you reduce risk inside AI. Human in the loop and human reviews reduce your risk. Because even if the AI tells you something wrong, the human can correct it. Prompt injections, malicious prompt bypass policies, input sanitization and AI restriction and model access, model biases or discriminatory outcomes. SageMaker has something called Clarify for bias scans, and it gives you actually a relatively number to see if your model is skewed. Data leakage, exposure to sensitive data and prompts a response. Private endpoints. Macy actually is AWS scanner. It looks through your output, be it in a S3 bucket, object storage. It'll look through and look for credit card numbers, health information, and those type of things. 1, 2, 3, and to the 4. Shout out to Space Tacos. Definitely go check out the treasure trove inside Discord. Great information there. Thanks to her for joining me. Model drift, prediction accuracy degrades over time. Model monitor plus retrain triggers. Vendor model risk, foundation model unknown and training data. Bedrock policy guardrails or vendor due diligence. Toxic and harmful content, unsafe response, damaging brand, guardrail, and moderation filters. Once again, we're digging to guardrails from AWS perspective. And once again, it looks for certain words, looks for certain content. You can give it certain words to look at, right? Shout out to Pi 314. Shout out to the Pi. PBO going on a diet in 2026. Shout out to me. Let's keep rolling. If you got any questions, cybersecurity, drop them in the chat. So this, of course, is NIST AI RMF mapping to their standard NIST documentation, user 800-53. What service you would use and what's evidence you would collect. Shout out to Space Tacos. Definitely doing some assessment audit out there. So Space Tacos was coming and looking for me. This is the evidence I would give to her for these AI issues on the left. So access control, you see that NIST right there, AC3. I'm not a big SOC person. Right there, you have your AIM, your service control policy, your RBAC and your ABAC controls, AIM role review, and the bedrock model access restriction. So a lot of times we do privileges review. Part of privilege review is looking at what AI roles people use. So if you're a privileged user, you're an SA, DBA programmer, we're going to review those roles to make sure you have least privileges. Then 2, if we need to fire you or you get hacked, we know what access you have, so we know what access to review. Make sure the bad guy didn't take your credentials and do something bad with them. Model artifacts integrity. Once again, NIST SI7. Once again, you will use your KMS keys, hashing, and S3 versioning, hash records and artifact logs, and code pipeline approvals. Logging and traceability. NIST AU3. You got your CloudTrail, your model monitor, and your guardrail logs. Retain logs from 1 to 7 years. I do IRS work. They want you to keep them from 7 years. Shout out to that. We can compress them and put them in Glacier so they don't cost as much. But once again, these are the artifacts we give Space Tacos. Shout out to Otters. Shout out to my man, security expert. Happy New Year, everyone. See what my man Jim Marcy. Risk assessment is always a hot potato, but more so with AI. My small business client keep AI perpetual pilot mode. Everyone else, that's I don't know if that's good or bad. Keep it in the pilot mode. And 2, like you said, figuring out what, like you said, is acceptable from a risk perspective. What I try to do is just kind of use this as the benchmark, saying these are the things they want. This is the evidence we have. Then coming up, we'll talk about what they need to sign off from that evidence. Right, because I'm not accepting the risk. The C-suite and the owner of this business unit and the owner of the risk is going to set the risk for it, not PBO. Shout out to me. This is a new one for me. Bias and transparency. Once again, the AI RMF map, clarity and model cards. We're going to talk about model cards. That was kind of new to me when I started drilling more into that. I've never seen a model card in real life, an AI model card. Once again, you get bias reports and explainability reports, content moderation. Once again, you get your AI RMF governed, guardrails. They got bedrock safety scopes, policy configuration and snapshot, data protection. Once again, you got your KMS. Your Macy is AWS scans your S3 bucket, which stores your documentation and your output. 4, once again, PII scans, encryption keys, private link configs, any of your classification data. Macy's can hopefully find it before you send it out from your return prompt, right? So you don't want to have PII leakage, I think was their term. I always call it spillage as an old term. I think they're calling it leakage in AI. Continuous monitoring, cloud watch, drift detection, monitoring dashboard and alerts, because you want to log and monitor that stuff. So hopefully you can catch it because you're going to be doing continuous monitoring. And 2 is you want to log everything so you can go back to it. Then the other one is change management and retraining, model registry and CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment, release notes, approvals, and rollback. That's where we put that kind of man in the middle for the approval. This man in the middle is good, not bad. I would think man in the middle attack. So what required documentation and artifacts are we looking for? I highlighted that model card. It decides, talks about the purpose, data set, known limitations, and explainability, training data set lineage. What data are you putting in there? How do you train it? And where did you get it from the company? Did you buy it? Did you get it from an outside source? Is it data inside the company? Because if the model comes up something wrong, oh, shout out to B Dubs. I had to make her a high level and the thing so she could get in the comments. Shout out to her. I almost forgot, but I appreciate B Dubs. Definitely go check out the vice president inside Study GRC. Once again, let's get down to it. The model cards. Bias and performance report. SageMaker clarify and model monitoring outputs. Talks about biases. It can do calculations and say this from our mid and mode is too far left or right. So it believes the model will be doing biases. So once again, how do you get output and reports to talk about? Once again, shout out to Space Taco. She might ask you, how are you validating that your model is not biased? So these are the reports we would need to show her, that give her to show how we're handling biases. Prompt governance logs. The last 4 or 5 are standard documents. You would do anything for any NIST, FedRAMP, CGIS type thing, right? But security architectural diagram, data flow diagram, and trust boundaries. IAM apples and SCP access reviews. Have your, shout out to Ty, have your standard pen test and AI red team exploitation results. Vendor model due diligence. Third-party risk FM on training data and SLAs, service level agreement. So your pen test is standard, right? Even if you got an AI model, can a hacker hack in? Can they get to your data? Can they poison your data? Can they change your prompts? S3 is where you storing your training logs and files. Can the hackers get in there? And that's what your pen test and your red team exploitation. When I worked at DoD, every 3 years we had to hire an outside firm to actually do a full penetration test. It was interesting. Like some years we would do great, then some years somebody would get in and get a domain password and just wreck the whole system, right? But that's why you have them, right? And that's why you go with some virtual companies. Because some of those are kind of novel ways. Shout out to my man Gabe from Struggle Security. His favorite term is eat off the land. You can attack your printers, attack internal settings for you. Then once again, do privilege escalation. Because when you do a full red team pen test, you give them low-level passwords and see if they can take those, pivot off, do privilege escalation. So you're letting them in your system, then you're going to see how your internal controls. Because I think a lot of people pray that you won't get into your systems. Red team, full red team exploitation, you give them some low-level passwords and see if they can do privilege escalation. So that's when you know how good your security is. Once again, shout out to B-Dubs for joining. I thought I had to check on her, make sure she can get in there. Auditors love documentation. It is true. I'm weird because I'm old. I try to give them a ton of documentation. When you come check out our PBL system, I promise you're going to get about 1,000 pages. Why do I do that? That keeps young auditors busy. Junior auditors, they just get overwhelmed by paperwork. Senior auditors like, oh, that's fluffy. I'm throwing most of that out. So all my policies inside DOD, access control, gonna be about 15 pages. Configuration management plan, about 150 pages. Right? I'm giving you a lot of fluff. I'm giving you references to other documents. I'm giving you a whole bunch of diagrams because most people get overwhelmed with documentation. And most people, when they do federal documentation, they're usually in and out in 3 days because they're doing a lot of work. So if you can just overwhelm them with 3 days with documents, a lot of times they just be checking it out. So that's the GM. I want to give out too many GMs today. So what are model cards? Once again, that's something I wasn't quite aware of. Are standardized documentation artifacts for AI, artificial intelligence, ML, machine learning modules that explain what a model is, how it was built, what data it uses, where it works well, and critically, where it does not. This is to make AI systems transparent, audible, and governable. Think of a model card as a nutritious label or a safety data sheet for an AI model. I got a list of ones so we can look at what model cards exist. Auditors, regulators, security teams need answers to these questions. What is the model for? What data trained it? Does it contain or infer sensitive data such as PII or FTI? FTI is federal tax information. Is it biased? How accurate is it? What are its known risks and limitations? And who owns it and who approves it? Model cards answer all of that in one place. So once again, we're going to look at the model cards. And for me, it was kind of like, I wouldn't say an SSP from an AI. It was kind of more of a high level, once again, executive summary of what that will look like. Once again, shout out to Space Tacos. From an auditor, she asked me those questions. Where would I get those? What are model cards contain and what are required sections? So you see right there, model overview, purpose and scope, intended use, approved use cases, how to scope, explicit forbidding uses. So when I worked at the big Fortune 500 company, we would never put patent documents or anything we thought should be in the ether in the domain. So there was they never put in architectural diagrams, which shouldn't be in there. So there was some specific documents from an IT security perspective we put in our policies and procedures that should go nowhere near a training document. Training data, evaluation metrics, bias and fairness, explainability, how outputs are derived, security controls, how you control access, encryption and logging, risk and limitations, known failures to the modes, governance and ownership. Once again, who's the model owner and who's approved thing, change history and version updates. And once again, that change management. Shout out to my man Brexy. Appreciate you. And once again, that model card from our AI perspective, and once again, what's should be in there. For me, like there's certain things in SSP you guys gonna have. You're gonna have a scope, you're gonna have inventory, you're gonna have encryption, you're gonna have logging. So this is that for the AI piece of that. Once again, I've seen a lot of people asking for AI governance. I didn't really know what that was. Well, let me take that back. I knew what it was. I didn't know what documents they were asking for. Right? I always say rubber meets the road. We talk about GRC. The part I tell people GRC is like my boss says, nobody ever hacked their policy and procedure. So when we talk about STIG, CIS checks, and schism, what goes on this OS inside Windows that needs to be set so it doesn't get hacked? So these are some of the things that need to be set in your model. So maybe not get hacked, but doesn't get poisoned, doesn't get prompt injection. These are the security controls you need to put on your AI. Or once again, shout out to Space Taco, what your auditor is going to ask you for. And once again, PBL doesn't like to be surprised, so I want to have this stuff already in the package. So a lot of times what I get hired for, I come in to get people ready for when Space Tacos come in and do the 3PO, third-party assessment. Because those guys are charging big money, right? So PBL is to make sure we get our in-house documentation in order. You don't want to be surprised by an auditor, right? So you want to, all the scans you should already have done, all the policy plans you should have done. You should have a red team pen test already done, right? Because you don't want to go and get in a bad grade, but you want to get in surprise. Now, don't get me wrong, the auditor is going to find something, but you don't want to, my first thing at DOD, and I told this story, we had 10,000 errors, right? So you don't want to be surprised with 10,000 errors. Once again, that was from an internal scan, but obviously we wasn't ready. So once again, let's keep rolling with the model. Model cards in compliance with governance. Model cards are explicitly expected or strongly implied by the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. And also, boo, the ISO IC 42001. Shout out to Study GRC. They've been talking about the 42001 for ISO. PBL don't do ISO. No, I'm just playing. ISO is actually becoming spreading inside the United States, which surprised me. I always think ISO is a European type thing. My favorite, the FedRAMP NIST 800-53. So that model card is going to be for documentation and traceability. My favorite, IRS Pub 1075 of FTIs involved. SOC 2, Type 2. The EU, boo the EU. Shout out to my man King. I know he on the EU team. Probably do not like facts. Facts. And I work with one of the meanest lawyers. So shout out to him. So no, we do not like privacy protectors. So PBO's job is hopefully flesh most of that out. Yep, we can see B-Dubs. We can see B-Dubs in the house. Shout out to her. Definitely running a study GRC. Mr. Chris is stepping back, getting some credentials. So we're going to promote B-Dubs to president. I'm doing that myself. President B-Dubs. We're going to make her president. Let me get my big face off the screen. The last thing, if you cannot produce a model card during an audit, this is usually a finding. So we're going to put model cards up there with SSPs, MOUs, agency documents. So I'm putting the list. I'm always looking for probably 20 documents when I'm doing third-party assessment. We're going to look for the 20 security families from this. With that is 20 procedures. Then usually we hit you with the incident response, configuration management, COOP plans. Now we're going to throw the AI model plans in there. Off of that, we're going to have our standard SSP big dog document, right? It's going to tell you how security is implemented. Shout out to that. Let's see. You make ISO sound like a contagious disease. Facts. 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 President B-Dubs. I'm promoting B-Dubs for president. Shout out to B-Dubs. Let's keep rolling. But once again, just going through what we're looking for, an AI audit package. We're always talking about AI governance. What does that look like, and what's in that package? Now, I can FedRAMP you to death. I can FISMA you to death. I can IRS Pub 1075 you to death. Little light on the AI. So we all trying to get a little better in AI in 2026. Why do model cards matter? We just talked about giving your work with AWS 1075 ARS governance. Model cards reduce your audit findings, support risk assessment, enable explainability and defensibility, protect against misuse and overreach, provide evidence. This is key. Provide evidence of responsible for AI. We want to be responsible out here. All right. So, what are we doing? Once again, we're going to reduce our findings. We're going to have very little findings, but once again, that's where that model card comes in from an AI perspective. See, my man Larry said, make sure to leave P. I appreciate you. Give me a thumbs up. 2026. That's a screenshot, and that's what I'm going to do. This is creating a model. Create a model that isn't in the model registry. This is inside AWS. Most people here know I love AWS. Inside their Bedrock, it shows you how to set up your AI model, your model card to be exact, right? Your model overview, which we talked about, your model name, SageMaker section, description, what algorithms you're using, right? And we're going to go back and look. That's what the model card was asking. When you set up your model inside Amazon Bedrock, this is that model card information you give. I will take a screenshot, put this in my folder. So when Space Tacos come by to check out my documentation, I'll have it ready for her. So once again, those are the things she'll be checking off inside her assessment. How do you not remove your residual risk, but bring your residual risk down? We talked about that. Human in the loop, A2I. 4 hours approval on sensitive output. Pre-production red team for jailbreak vulnerabilities. Automatic rollback if the drift threshold exceeds. So if you put out a new model and it starts, I guess, going off the rails, once again, you got stuff reading the output. You got, if you putting out financial information, you got means and modes that if some numbers like 3 deviations or 4 deviations, you know it's off the rails. You need to roll it back to the original one. So once again, what is that and how do you have that implemented? Safety policy version control, quarterly risk assessment tied to model releases. So every quarter, if we release a new model, we need to go through once again through a risk assessment. Once again, talk about your policies, procedures. Once again, those check boxes we were looking at. How are we taking care of those? Model drift. Once again, some of the documents they're looking for. Operational review every quarterly. If you got volume spikes or new users. Security review semi-annually. New AWS region or network changes. If you given, once again, part of that security review is privileged access review. Who's reviewing it? Who's has access to it? Are they using access keys? Are they putting their access keys somewhere they shouldn't? Like Reddit. Don't do that. Access governance review, every model update, accuracy, degradation, or new harms identified. Certification compliance review annually for your audit cycle. So every annually, once again, we're going to do a full audit. Do we have policies and procedures? We added this onto the model. Do we have documentation for that? Do we have testing for that? Do we have bias reports for those new features we added to? Right? Because once again, every annually we need to roll our sleeves up and jump in there. Who has final approval on that? Shout out to the Chief Information Security Officer, Data Protection Officer, if it's regulated data. I usually see Compliance Director for that. Product and Business Owner. When I worked for the big Fortune 500 company, they did have a lot of business owners. Who owns the model for that? Once again, for us, the business owner handles the risk, but who owns the model? Internal audit and acknowledgement. Once again, who's auditing to make sure, once again, all the stuff we review is in place, right? Once again, I've never done an AI model governance. And once again, I've seen a lot of people asking for that, right? So I at least want to have an understanding of that. Here, I dropped the link. Is there anything? So once again, I was just kind of wondering, from a package. Let's go find that package. I think it was at the top. Because once again, I do FedRAMP packages, FISMA package. I done a 4812 package. What's in there, all right? And what are people looking for? Shout out to Fern. Thanks for joining us. Even though we're wrapping up, better late than never. I want to wish everybody a happy Friday and see what's going on. Once again, required documentation artifacts attached to your package, right? We really talking about you already have a FedRAMP package or a FISMA package or IRS 4812 package or IRS Pub 1075 package. But now you're adding AI to that package. Once again, we delved down a little deep into your model cards. Once again, that was kind of something new for me from an IRS perspective. Once again, training data. And shout out to Engineering Cannabis. He jumped on the stream. Is where is that data coming from? Can you track it? And what part of this data are you using? That's the lineage. Because a lot of times company has data swamp. What's the data swamp is? We just got a lot of data and we just dumped it into the disk. We jumped it into the file system. We told you find what you need, but once again, where then we don't have the lineage. Where did it come from? Who's tracking it? Is it overlapped? Is it old data or new data? Is it changed data? So should be tracking the changes so we understand how the data is getting trained, or we just got a bunch of data on the disk and we just feeding it. Most people just feed data. The biases and performance report. If you go into SageMaker, most people know I'm an AWS guy. So these are usually AWS services. SageMaker Clarify Model Monitoring talks about your bias report. Prompt governance logs, bedrock guardrail trails. When you do your prompt, once again, you have words that you can't put in the prompt. You have phrases you can't put in the prompt, right? Those are your governance logs to block some of those type of words and phrases, right? Once again, the rest I thought was pretty standard. Security architectural diagram, data flow diagram with your boundaries, AIM ACLs, SCP, pen testing your AI red team, and your vendor model due diligence. So I think that's the big one from your third party assessments. What reviews are you doing these models before you using them? I don't think people are reviewing these models. I think people in a company says we want to do AI. They say pick ChatGPT, but I don't think they go and say, okay, how's ChatGPT saving your data? If you uploading corporate data, is it just in your database or are they sharing that with the rest of their users? Right. So I think we're lacking a little bit on the third party due diligence from a AI perspective. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I need to do a third party assessment of ChatGPT and see what that looks like. To be honest, I'm a little confused what steps I would do to do that. But yeah, so I think that might be something we do. Let's do a third party assessment of ChatGPT, especially if you're talking about using this APIs and hooking that up into your in-house programs. Once again, we're talking about AI governance, what that looks like, I guess, in the new era. Once again, I do assessment and packages and getting those ready. I was just kind of understanding if we're using AI, what goes in that package. So once again, we looked at some of those packages. We looked at how they were mapping to NIST 800. People know I love NIST 800-53. Shout out to Space Taco. I didn't mean this. I didn't mean I had so to sound contagious. I just try to stay in my lane. But now shout out. When I was at the big company, a lot of vendors were actually going more to ISO. I didn't like it. To be honest, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I need to get my man Min on here interviewing more about ISO. I do ISO at a very high level. I cheat if you go look at NIST in the appendix. They got a ISO to NIST mapping. So I always use that when I'm doing ISO. I just map it to NIST. So I just stay in my lane. Once again, I dropped the link if anybody wants to come up. There it is. I hang out any longer for any questions, cybersecurity or tech, drop them in there. We can definitely discuss. I'm definitely going to do a little more on AI. Once again, AI is hot. AI governance. Once again, it's super hot. I see that around. Do I think I could do AI governance? I most definitely can. Why? For me, it's just adding on to the NIST 800-53 with their controls and just adding more controls. Do you see AI causing any specific risk for GRC audit perspectives? Oh yeah, 100%. Question is, do you see any AI causing any specific risk from a GRC auditing perspectives? Company cuts and corners, leaning to. Oh, facts. I left the company, and I'm probably gonna do a video of this. I got laid off, so which I knew was coming. Not a big deal. Super respectful. I went in to train some people. They were using AI. They were using AI to review those documents instead of me doing it. They were using AI. So I think AI did a great job, but there was some nuanced things I think it was missing. Let me take that back. It wasn't missing. You just needed training on those particular things, right? And what that should look like. That's all covered in EU AI Act, and they plan to update. I've seen that. Of course, we know the EU is definitely on top of the AI and on the AI Act, the plan to update that. I need to check out the updated plan from the EU perspective. But Kiki, we talked about that from United States perspective. The Department of Justice are suing states because their AI is too restrictive. We don't want to stop our guys from beating Japan, so we're actually reducing it. Kiki, we were talking about that. Was last stream or the stream before that? The U.S. we're reducing it. I appreciate you, Space Tacos. You know, if you ever need me, ping me. Definitely go check out the Treasure Trove in Discord. I actually dropped a couple Stig videos in there. Shout out to Space Tacos. Thanks for joining. I need to go check on EU because we're relaxing. We're relaxing our AI. We just gonna let you run amok, man. We gotta beat China, man. We're gonna let you do what you want to do, Kiki. We talked about that, but I need to go look into that now. Shout out to you because when I do third party reviews, a lot of times companies they're not even thinking about it all the way through. What's up, Jim?
Hey, what's up, PBO?
All right. The companies are actually putting GDPR and R5s and RPs. They don't know GDPR is way more restrictive than this. So if they want to do that, I'm like, cool. That's more security on you, not me. So I love when companies start quoting GDPR. I'm like, dude, that's way harder than CCP and A for privacy. So a lot of people don't realize they actually put more security, which I like. So I'm cool with that. You want to add anything to that, Jim? On the overall, I guess the overall things I was talking about, I was rambling about. Go ahead. Jim, you there? I saw you go off mute, but I can't hear you. Check one, check two to Jim. I can't hear you, Jim. I heard you trying. Well, I'm gonna keep rambling till Jim gets his mic, I guess, set up. But I heard him crystal clear earlier.
Hey, you got me, PBO?
I got you now. I got you. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm just switching between Teams and Zoom and whatnot. Always fun adventures. But no, it's funny. It's yeah, I kind of saw that. It's like we don't like your security of AI. It's too good. I don't know how you can tell an organization, hey, don't do that. You're too good. You're too effective. But hey, one thing I wanted to add was, regarding model cards, they're great, but it's funny when I was studying for when I passed the ISAC, the AAISM,
Mhm.
it's there was barely a mention of model cards, right? And it was really in there because of the GRC aspects. But when I took the SEC AI Plus, I'll find out the results here in March.
Mhm.
That wasn't even mentioned. They kind of leave out they hit the security, but not so much the GRC aspects of it. And like I mentioned, I'm working with small clients, and it's kind of like, well, let's jump into AI. Everything with AI is good. We got to do it. And I'm like saying, whoa, hold on here, right? Who's going to assume all the risk from this? Are we doing everything right? The third party, Yeah, that's just kind of getting left alone right now. And you with the IRS or the government, it's more heavily regulated or financial sector, so they do a little bit better job. But yeah, there's just a lot of wild wild west stuff right now.
Yeah, but that's normal. It's hot. Everybody wants to do it, but like you said, and nobody thinks about. But the problem I have with a lot of times is a lot of AI tools. They just let them run through um, teams, let them run through all their file folders and their work areas. I'm like, do you know what documents you have in there? People been uploading documents. So now
Oh
you
yeah.
just got AI just running through these teams' work areas and they're not secured. They're not locked down. Then all of a sudden you got people's salary popping up inside. I'm like, dude. So that's kind of what from privileged access and what rights you giving your AI to let it roam through all your documentation.
Yeah,
Um,
that's when you got to take some, some embarrassing stuff, like you said, some salary data or some intellectual property, and take it right to, someone in a head shed and say, "Hey, why am I seeing this?" And then they do something about it.
People don't realize it was Microsoft when we were inside Teams. They had this product called Delve, and it helps you to find things. But once again, people had too many privileges, so they were seeing stuff they shouldn't see. It was coming up in this product called Delve, and we were like, "What's going on?" And one thing I hate about Microsoft is they just put a new product out there, wouldn't tell you, and they just make it available to everybody. So it was like, dude, can we force these people to opt in? So that right there showed us we had no idea what people really had access. They were doing about obfuscation. I messed that word up. They didn't know they had access to it, so they wouldn't go try to see it because they didn't know it. But this
Yeah.
product helped everybody. I was like, oh my God, we were struggling. We were struggling for like a quarter to try to get a handle on that. But
Yeah, we had
Marcus,
that. Yeah, we had that thing, like I said, it's like, yeah, for 2026, you're saying, oh, I got to do Azure, and me, I'm saying, oh, I got to do AWS, but when we start really looking at taking full advantage of Purview, right, and say, well, let's see what we can actually see out here, right? It was shocking.
yeah, that got us too. I'm like, oh my God, we really struggling. We really struggling out here, and I don't think and for especially bigger companies, people get projects and taking off projects, get promoted and taking off promotion. And we were not doing a privilege review and access review across everybody in the org. We were struggling getting that set up. Especially with the advent of AI, I think you need to get that down pat where you're doing at least every quarter. Once again, drop your questions or cybersecurity or tech in the chat box. Let's see, Larry. Let me continue with Larry's question. Yeah, and I believe continuing on that is I think AI people don't have the correct rights. I think people are trying to do more with less. So people are giving people access to AI, and people don't Shout out to Kevin from LinkedIn. I don't think they have the understanding and the training to really work at AI correctly, Larry. I think that's what we're struggling with. And once again, you know more than anybody else. Feds cutting, private companies cutting, and I think people think AI is the silver bullet. I think it is, but you got to learn how to shoot. Right. So I think we struggle with shooting. Um, People are using multiple AIs because cloud is better at programming. ChatGPT is better at documentations and uh, Word documents in Excel. And Nano Banana's better at images. So I think people are using multiple AIs, multiple chatbots, and we're not even talking about MCPs where MCPs are actually updating stuff. So I think that's we. I think leaning too heavily on AI because it's the civil. And two is what else you gonna lean on when you cutting 20% of your workforce? You got to do something about it. And I think that's what we're doing. So I
Hey,
think that's the catch 22. Go ahead and chime in on that, Jim.
I was going to say, I think it's a silver bullet, but for self-inflicted wounds.
No, that's true. But once again, it's but once again, I mean, we had case tools, we had code generation. I mean, so we've had that throughout history. But once again, I think since AI is touching every part of your company and every domain of your company, I think that's the problem, or the solution. These new people. I'm trying. I'm trying. He's up on me, B Dubs. I'm chat GPing my my thumbnails. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better. Let's see what my man Larry said. As we incorporate AI deeper into our frameworks, do you foresee in the future where combine streamlines these others? I do. I do. I think in the future, and we're kind of doing it now. I think you're using programmers are using more AI to help them generate code, which means you need less programmers, less junior programmers. I think GRC, and they're building it in the tools also. Any tool you buy now has AI embedded in it. So they're telling you, okay, from a GRC perspective, these can look to your config files, these will look to your log files, will tell you your findings. So theoretically, you would lead less GRC people, right? And those GRC people findings, they kind of tell the cloud engineers and the infrastructure what they need to do to kind of fix it. So they're definitely going to streamline it. They're definitely going to combine and streamline people. I think in the future, you're going to need AI just to kind of help you do your job better, right? If you're gonna like I've been learning Python. So once I learn the basics, I just have Chat GBT generate out my they used to call it my scaffolding I need for it. Then I just put in the domain knowledge inside that Python, right? Then after a while is once it gets good, you don't need a programmer. You need a person with domain knowledge. You won't need a programmer. So I definitely see those converging in that. But I don't see it anytime in the next 2 or 3 years. A lot of people do see it in the next 2 or 3 years. I don't see it converging that quickly. Oh, I know, B Dubs. I'm giving you a hard time. I appreciate you. They look a lot better than what I was doing. Now you know you good. Shout out to B Dubs. I always got to pick on B Dubs. The president of Study GRC. She taking over. Now shout out to I appreciate you. That did look pretty good. I was quite pleasantly surprised with my ChatGPT skills. But so once again, put any questions, cybersecurity or chat in the box. Jim, you want to add anything to that? I cannot enunciate today. I'm struggling.
No, it's just you're talking about doing more with less, and
Right.
yeah, I've seen that 100%, right? That's and a lot of shortcut get taken, and then that leads to obviously problems. Fully having access to data where you shouldn't have. Hey, one thing I was going to mention to you was. As I'm actually reaching out, especially at the end of the year, it's like I usually reach out to, people on my LinkedIn network, people I've known for years, and it's
Mhm.
funny. And a lot of people are like, they're making a transition, been more in a traditional IT role, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden they haven't been working,
Oh,
or
facts.
they've been working security or programming or doing whatever, and it's like, man, they're just like hurting right now. And a lot of them are saying, well, they're jumping over to AI and GRC, and it's really kind of interesting. In fact, one of my friends is she went on and got her oh my God, what'd she get? She got her doctorate in cybersecurity, after we were in class together about a dozen years. But she hasn't worked in about a year and a half, and I just thought that was amazing, right? Because they tell you, oh, there's all these jobs, but it seems like they're really streamlining. A lot of organizations aren't hiring,
Facts.
and well, they are, right? It's they want someone with all of these qualifications like you. We want you with 30 years of experience, right? And then we want to pay you entry level salary
Facts.
and whatnot.
Facts.
Yeah, yeah, it's
But
just amazing.
Now, you real quick, Kiki, if you can expound on, let's see, Kiki, what do you mean? AI is definitely taking impacting entry level roles. I'll let Kiki respond and I'll respond. But I think too is we overhired through COVID. I think the kids, Gen Z, were on YouTube talking about they go in the office and get lunch from Meta and they really don't work. And people don't realize what Meta and the big companies were doing. They couldn't buy companies because regulatory reviews. They thought they were blocked. So what they did is, which was unbelievable, they just hired all the talent and put them on the bench. So if I had work for you, I did. If not, I stopped my competitors from getting them. So now they done figured out they done got the domain they wanted. They got the talent they wanted. So all those extra people they hired, they're releasing them. So people forget about that. In the early, right before COVID, they couldn't buy companies like they did in the old days. So they just bought talent and put them on the bench. Let's see, my man Dr. Finesse Cloud might be. Oh, yeah, shout out. Cloud's much better for coding than that. That's kind of one of my things I want to work on in 2026. I wanted to get most out of ChatGPT I can, but now Cloud is definitely better at coding. Shout out to Dr. Finesse. Now that's 100%, especially if you start using the MCP servers from Cloud. No, that's definitely it. Once again, I kind of like to max something out, but now I believe you're 100% correct. Cloud is much better at coding than ChatGPT. Let's see, security, my man, expert, shout out to that. Entry level positions often involve tasks like basic triage, repetitive work, which AI tools can handle quite well. I agree with that. Farron thinks it's the salary. Facts, facts. Larry, I mean, it's going to be harder for graduates getting entry level position in companies. I think those two go together, what Kiki and security experts said. AI is not taking jobs. It's the people who know how to use AI. I think those go hand in hand, though, Dr. Finesse. The pendulum has swung the other way. Facts, facts for sure. Let's see. These businesses are diabolical, but don't regular. Oh yeah, we done set up, we done set them loose. So yeah, I think Kevin's definitely responding to that. Once again, I think we overhired. I think we once again, I think companies, it was called, I think they call it blitzkrieg. They were just, instead of buying companies like in the old days, they just bought the people and put them on the bench. Then when they figured out what they needed for their new domain, if that's Meta, if that's the metaverse, or if that's whatever, they just put those guys on the bench.
Hey, PBO, one thing,
Yep.
I've kind of seen this happening over the last, 5, 10, 15 or so years, but with all of these mega data centers, with AWS and Microsoft and Google Cloud, it's like, well, they kind of control all this stuff. It's like what's happening to all your infrastructure people, your people who are on site with local companies. Now it's all commoditized through all of these big name organizations. So yeah, they're going to look for efficiency yeah. So I think that's going to really affect the landscape a little bit too.
Yeah, but once again, I think we talked about it. You're 100% right. But now instead of networking people, you're going to need those, or Palo Alto people or Cisco people. You need those people, but you need your Azure people and AWS, because when you set it up, it looks like one network, right? You're going through VPCs, you're going through CLACs, you're going through um, telecom companies, and it looks like one network. So you got to be able to set up your Cisco router, and you got to be able to set it up in AWS. So now it looks like one network. So, but once again, I think you need less people, because you're controlling less physical networking devices, but in the cloud, you might have way more networking endpoints, right? Because you might have servers and subnets. You might have a European subnet and a United States subnet. You got to control it. It's all networking, but it's a different type of networking, right? And I think you need less people, because a lot of times you're doing point and click or you're running your Terraform or whatever you're using to set up your networking. But once again, I think you're using less people because it's software defined.
Oh, absolutely. And then so many people are outsourcing. Well, let's outsource this to, Microsoft or AWS, and well, let's outsource this to somebody else. And then as a business, you basically don't have your IT staff. It's outsourced. You don't know where that is
Oh,
or who it
fact.
is, or yeah, that's the other thing is you don't know where it is, where these people are working on your systems. I mean, there's something regulatory you can require. Our data
Facts.
is housed in a continental United States or in a
Mhm.
certain region or something, but the people's another factor.
Oh yeah, but like you said, you can ask those questions, but you don't know right now. But that's it. Especially most people, like you said, are using MCPs uh, to do that work. So, like you said, they're outsourcing that work to smaller companies, um, and see what that looks like. Farron
Yeah,
says schools don't teach you tools and hands-on. You have to build something. I'm building every day. Windows, Linux projects, cluster, adding AI. No, I think that's it. Shout out to Lab Every Day. Shout out to the one from AWS. You got Lab Every Day, and I labbed too much last week. My bill was like $110. I got to ease up on my lab. And so, no, I definitely agree with that, Farron. You got to lab and touch it every day. That's the cool thing now with AWS. You do get a couple things set up for a year you can do for free. And realistically, you can change your IP address. I'm not recommending that, but you can change your email address and get free stuff. But no, once again, you want to lab every day. Go ahead and chime in on that if you want.
no, I was going to say I always forget to turn stuff off,
Oh,
and then,
fast.
and then and then I get hit with a bill, because just trying to keep track of it. So
Mhm.
I'm like you. It's like I'm actually looking for somewhere to subscribe to. So it's like no surprises. One
Oh,
set
no.
fee. You hit the labs, and when you're done, it gets torn down automatically. No fuss, no muss.
No, facts. Security experts said Kiki is spot on. Those just starting out are definitely feeling the effects of AI right now. Let's see. Oh, okay, my man Larry got it. Shout out to my man Brandon Howell on the LinkedIn. Now, that is not true, Brandon Howell. I won't create more jobs. I don't believe that. I think AI is going to be more efficient. So you're going to do more with less. I don't think it's going to create more jobs. We used to have like 40 network guys. That's all going to be software defined. You're not going to need 40 guys anymore. I disagree with that. I don't think it's going to create more jobs. I think it's going to create jobs you can do more with. Because now we were talking about, I used to work at DOD. We used to have to manually spin up Apache and Tomcat servers. We used to have to request disk space. You have to do all. I could do a Terraform script and just hit a button and spin all that. I think that's a fallacy. I don't think it's going to create more jobs. Now, what's going to happen is AI is going to be in jobs that's already out there. So if I'm a pharmacist and we're talking about you and I need to check your medicine with your blood pressure and I'm old, I got A1C problems, AI is going to go ahead and check that. That's not an additional job. That's just going to be included in a pharmacy job, and I think it's going to do more. What's your take on that, Jim? I'm up here on my soapbox. Go ahead. You want some
No,
of
I
that?
agree. I agree. AI will create some AI jobs, but boy, it's gonna reduce a lot of others through efficiency.
Yeah, Brandon, if you look at the top AI guys, think unemployment in the next 10 years is going to get 50% because AI is going to take all the jobs.
Yeah, that was. I think we mentioned that. It's like I read something where it says 60% of the federal jobs aren't needed, government jobs or
Thanks.
state, local, and then it said there's probably 70, 80% of corporate jobs, well, the white collar ones, that with multiple levels of management aren't needed. So, yeah, I think AI is really going to streamline how we do work. I don't know what that looks like. Nobody does. If somebody says, "Oh,
No,
this is what it's," yeah, nobody has a clue how
no,
this is going to shake out. So
they're
we'll find
guessing.
out.
They're guessing. I don't think it's going to shape out pretty. My man Ty said it's hard to find a job for anyone with an associate degree. It seems without a bachelor degree, we're done. No, and I agree with that. I don't think we're done. But what the problem is so many people are laid off. We have degree inflation. So, like my man was saying, GMR was, you want an entry level person? So many people unemployed. We want you to have 5 years because we know a mid level person gonna take that job. So well, I think we have degree inflation. So I think that's true. once again, if the market's saturated, I give way more than that. But let's don't overlook at it. 3 years ago, when they were looking, people with associate degrees were getting jobs and everything. Were looking for people, and it was a super shortage. Now there's an oversupply, right? It swings back and forth. So now it's on the other side of that. So employers has the gun, as they say. The employer, the rabbit has the gun now, so we don't like it. So, but no, that's definitely true. Security expert on the other hand, intermediate and senior security folks. Oh, facts. I'm one of those. Facts. Let me read this very slowly. On the other hand, intermediate and senior cybersecurity folks must learn to use AI as a tool or get left behind. I am those old people. Facts. But that's the good and the bad thing about tech. You have to do continuous learning because if not, you will get left behind. I started off on mainframe. The mainframe guys couldn't pick up client server, so a lot of those guys got laid off. Client server guys couldn't pick up relational database guys. I was a relational database guy. I struggled to pick up object oriented. If you missed any one of those leaps, you became obsolete, right? So now it's cloud, and now it's cloud to AI, right? So that's the good and bad about technology. You got to jump on those waves, or you're gonna get left behind. And let's be honest, I'm almost 60. People don't like to hire 60-year-olds. Even though I'm a senior, people do not like that. Number one, I'm grumpy. Number two, I'm old. In fact, you got to pay a brother. I eat well, man. I like eating steak. Happy birthday to me. Shout out to me. Give myself a shout out. Shout out to me. But no, so you definitely got to jump on that and keep on. Chime in on that. You want some of that?
No, I'm with you, PBO. It's funny because because I deal just with some small nonprofit clients, and it just keeps me occupied. But I said this, I've had enough of this. I told you my struggles. It's like the chief financial officer holds the money, and there's like this partnership with like the Ernst and Youngs and the CPA firms, to look the other way. And so the operations people struggle for money, and so I got tired of it. So
Yeah.
I went on a final interview for a CISO position with a school system,
Oh my God.
and I went in, I hit, and I hit the board, and it's like, and I talked about all the programs we're going to do and what we're going to do with AI and all this other technology, and since it's a school system, I partnered with one of my buddies who was at Lockheed Martin. He left and he ran a nonprofit. They were dealing with helping local sheriffs with open source tools that was low cost for doing child trafficking investigations and stuff. So really good leading edge stuff for real cheap. And apparently they didn't. Yeah, they just looked and said, "Oh, you're an old man" or something like that. So yeah, so I'm with you too, and I like eating my steak, and I'm not going to go say, well, yeah, I'm not going to work. Yeah, I'm going to work for like nothing, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm going to work 90 hours a week. So yeah, I hear you.
No, that's it. Shout out to my man, Dr. Finesse. This is very important. Important to remember. We need our own security controls. It's a shared responsibility model, not a risk, not a total risk handover. That's 100%. And I think small companies struggle with that. When I used to do risk assessment for smaller companies, they say, oh, we're in AWS and Azure, we good. I'm like, that's incorrect. They give you these services, but you got to time together. What encryption you going to use? Are you going to use AS256? Are you encrypting the disk at rest? Are you encrypting your S3, your object oriented? Like Dr. Fishness said, we own those security controls. Those are not there. So when I do risk assessment, especially smaller companies, they just say, oh, I'm in AWS, I'm good. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. Shout out to my man Kevin, checking out for LinkedIn. University can't stay there. AI trend the future work will those who can mesh AI and business go. That's true. And I'm actually going to start doing videos on that, how I use AI when I do an assessment using AI inside AWS with their Bedrock. How to use AI. Shout out to Dr. Finesse to validate our current controls that we own, right? Because if we do code, we own the code and the security controls of in the code. Because you got to remember inside the cloud, you have infrastructure as code, platform as a service, and software as a service. Depending on which one of those infrastructure you use, depending on what controls you own. So let me highlight Dr. Finesse again and get that in there. Oh, Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Let's see. Let's see. I was on Dr. Finesse. There was that there. Let's say we're behind. Let's see what my man Larry said. With all these big name companies signing new partnership deals with each other, man,
You keep dropping PBO, at least with me.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm not dropping you, but obviously you getting dropped. I might need to check on that. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's some Wall Street gimmickry there, Larry. What I mean is they're self-dealing. Like you said, Nvidia is going with Oracle, and Oracle's leasing their data center back to Nvidia, and they're taking some ownership of the data centers that they're getting chips from. I think people old in the 80s used to call corporate raiders. If you look up Nabisco when they used to buy cigarette companies, there was some financial shenanigans. I think this is financial shenanigans on there because you got to remember is they put $1 trillion in the AI, and ChatGPT lost $800 million. I think my man Chris, we looked it up last night. They lost $800 million, man. How you lose $800 million and you profitable? So now, Larry, I think there's some shenanigans. I'm going to do a video on that. I need to dig down a little meat there. I do have an MBA. I need to put some of those skills to use. I think there's financial shenanigans going on in there. Would you think jobs will follow? No, because I think it's financial shenanigans in there. Facts. Yep, I agree with that. He actually put it much better. I don't know if it's a he, but put it much better than I could. Yeah, I agree with that. And those are really I won't say short-term jobs, but once you get those jobs built, once you get those data center built, um, I think a lot of those trade jobs actually kind of ease up a little bit. I don't know if that's the proper term. Let's see, we're still responsible for risk, usually find share responsible information system security. That's incorrect. You are correct. Let me rephrase that. You are correct. We're responsible for that risk. Find share responsibility on the information security. I very rarely see that in information security policy. I might be wrong, man. Maybe you're doing better companies than me, Dr. Finesse. When I look at information security policy, they talk about their architecture a lot. Let me refine that. Policies is usually so high level. I usually see that more on the SSP than the policy, but I think smaller companies are meshing those together. But even the SSP, they talk about what they're talking about. A lot of times I usually don't see them talking about the risk of their particular setup. But once again, Dr. Finesse, I could be wrong. I just don't see that in a lot of mature companies. Um, I see that in less mature companies. But mature companies, this is what I see. Most companies I review are not mature, so I don't get that level. I don't see that level of detail. I usually give them a little grace, but they usually don't talk about shared responsibilities on it. They usually kind of talk about what they believe and encryption and protection. I don't usually see them get to that level. Most mid-sized or smaller companies don't have an SSP. Once again, that's me being grumpy. You want any of that, Jim? Anybody here doing a OT or ICS sector? I only know one guy in that sector.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that while you were talking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually studying that. I've actually been, when I was in the military, got to work on like what we call platform IT, like nuclear subs or
Mm-hmm.
weapons systems, etc. And lately, it's like, we're doing convergence of, like we did with convergence of cybersecurity and physical security, kind of doing that with IT and OT, security, when there's some overlap, but yeah, there's some headaches too. But I'm actually looking at that, as a future direction, because there's so much consolidation with a lot of jobs on the enterprise IT side of the house. I think maybe it's a more viable, steady job market for the next 10 years. Who knows?
No, true. Yeah, I don't know about the. I don't know that Kiki. I ain't gonna lie. I saw her open. They did something. Yeah, yeah. I heard. Now I take that. I take that back. But yeah. So once again, I think it's financial shenanigans. But companies will struggle to show how AI will return on ROI. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think they will return an ROI to begin with. I think most companies' workflows aren't broken down and equipped to actually use AI to get that level of payback they're needing. And that's something I've been kind of trying to figure out with listening to some of the AI experts talking about breaking down your workflow, making it down so you can actually prompt it and give it the instructions you need. One example, this one guy said, told the AI to clean up their disk. The AI deleted all the originals because his prompt wasn't clear. So I'm working on making my prompts clearer. So, and I personally struggle with that. I'm kind of OCD and I kind of do things and I'm making assumptions that people understand or at my level because I've been doing this for long. So if you do that with AI, you can get bad results. So I'm kind of working on making my prompts clear because it's not intent, it's the content. And a lot of times when we talk, it's the content around your prompt that you take for granted. Once again, I struggle with that. You want to chime in on that, Jim?
No, I was going to say that's like telling your significant other to clean the house and she blows it up, and or make me a sandwich and she makes you into a ham sandwich.
Fine, fine. So what's that? So yeah, and a lot of times, and say we're talking about medical, and you talking about giving yourself a drug. A lot of times, that drug you can say look in their pupils. So how is AI going to look at a person's pupils to get that context of what that drug is doing, right? So they were talking about what does that look like when you explain things. Like I said, I've been struggling them with that to make sure that's clear. I'll probably do a little more of that, Larry. Um, Live stream. It just seems so boring to me. That's why I don't do it. That's why I do it. But I think I'm gonna set it up kind of where once I get figured out, kind of go through and set it up. A lot of times I use AWS config. I heard about that. Shout out to Dr. Finesse. I heard about that for the clear prompt. I have not. So, but I definitely heard that was good. Shout out to Dr. Finesse.
Hey, I'm
Um,
glad someone mentioned that because I absolutely love those things, seeing someone who knows how to drive to actually watch them, and set yeah, I absolutely find value in that. For me, a lot of people don't like to read, but I actually do really well reading, but then obviously reinforce it doing the labs and stuff. But no, I get a great value watching someone do that. So I don't know.
I'll probably do it. Like I said, I did a few. I need to do that more. My man Kevin exactly help with automation. Oh, yep, yep. So I think, and Dr. Vanessa is putting some stuff on finding the right tool, job to help you with your stream and kind of laying that out. Then two is what does your, especially enterprise, what does your company let you use? Are you not saying Mr. Dr. Finesse is, but are you rogue? Are you using shadow AI that you using stuff for your company that your company has embedded, right? So that's kind of a big thing too from a AI governance perspective. You have a lot of shadow AI going on, right? Because people want to get help doing their job, but that stuff needs to be cleared by the company to help you do your job. So what is that? And once again, what's your tool set? And that's kind of something I'm learning is, and well, shout out to Dr. Vanessa, Cloud is better at programming. Chat GTP is better at this. Cloud is better at images. Prompt will help you do that. So, what is your workflow and what tools are you using? And until for a while, I think you're going to be using multiple AIs depending on what type of job you're using and what's your tool set. So, I'm trying to get comfortable with a certain tool set first before I expand it into other tools. So, but no, shout out to Dr. Finesse. Those were great links. You want to chime in on any of that? I want to shout out to my LinkedIn users that came over. If you don't mind, come over and join the YouTube and give me a couple more subscribers. Get my subscribers up on YouTube. Shout out to that. Trying to get my monetization back. Let's see. I think culture helps with a little with the shot. No, facts. I used to joke, which is not a good joke. I used to tell my big boss, and I'm an interviewer. She's vice president of some big company now. I used to tell her we need to fire one person a year, and that'll get around, and everybody else will fall in line. We just need to fire one person. She's like, PBO, I'm not doing that. Like, we just need to fire one person a year. Then everybody is snapping the line. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Once again, drop your questions. Chat any, put them in the box. Let's see, it was calling me. Oh, 222. Ooh. Let's see. I want to thank everybody for joining me. Great discussion. I think I'm gonna tap a little more into AI. I think everybody's trying to get up to speed, and especially from a governance perspective, I think that's definitely a little light in there, especially once again, people know I do federal work, and you definitely figure out what those packages look like. I appreciate you, Jim Mark. Thanks for coming up too. Have a great weekend. I think we're going to wrap it on up. Once again, I dropped the link if anybody wants to come up. I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. Like I said, I think everybody's enjoying the AI, so I think I'm going to start doing a few more AI, especially from a GRC, once again, risk assessment package type for that. Once again, I see a lot of jobs out there for AI governance, and I'm like, really, what is that? What is that? I know what it is, but how do you implement it? All right. How do you, once again, rubber meets the road? And we talked about these are the things you need in your AI package. And one of them was the model card. I was very kind of unfamiliar with what is a model card from that. Shout out to Space Tacos. I think she was on her lunch break, so she had to break off and do something. But I'd definitely be chatting with her because she's definitely oddity queen, making it happen. So, I'll be chit chatting with her in her Discord about what an auditor would look like, what the package should look like, and how we're going to move it. I appreciate you, KK Bionic or Bionic. I appreciate everybody. PBO tired. You're about to take a break. You're going to take a break. So once again, I want to wish everybody 2026. Get your goals, get your shirts. I've been saying this last year. I got to get my CISSP. Something I should have did a long time ago. Oh, shout out though. I got a ton of AWS certs. I love AWS. So see what Xavier said. I honestly think companies will continue to go forward with AI. Or facts. I don't think it's gonna be slowly. Look at tech. Tech dropping about $1 million. Bionic Karen, I appreciate you. Facts. Don't be putting peer pressure on me, B-Dubs. President B-Dubs, don't be putting too much peer pressure on the old guy. I don't think it's going to be slowly. Honestly think, this is from my man Xavier, honestly think companies will continue going forward with AI for a while. I agree with that. They were probably Josh Fox. No, it's not going to be slowly. They're going to be dropping them off. I appreciate you, Ty. I appreciate having a great weekend. Once again, I think I'm out. I appreciate everybody for joining me. Glad my homie B-Dubs could get in here and drop these comments in here. For some reason, I have to put her as the special moderator. It's all good, though. So if you're in timeout, that means B-Dubs put y'all in timeout, man. If y'all go in timeout, y'all know it's B-Dubs' problem. Once again, I'm a security expert. Shout out to my man. Shout out to Bon and Karen, Xavier, Dr. Finesse, Jim R, Kevin J. Foster Sr. I see my man on LinkedIn. Definitely go check him out. Larry, Top PM. Check out my man in Europe, Kiki. And Jasmine, always great stuff. So I always gave a shout out to Security IT. Shout out to my man Brandon for joining Hall from LinkedIn. I disagree with him on that one, but it's all good. I'm sure he will come up, or I might jump on his live. I don't think he's going to create more jobs, but we're going to see. We're going to see. Shout out to Fern. Oh, shout out to Space Tacos. I think that was it from everybody. Oh, shout out to Breezy for joining me. Shout out to Floyd Singletary. Got the CISA C-Rex CSAT. Shout out to Regine. Shout out to Lewis. Once again, I appreciate everybody for joining. I'm out. You can find me on Discord on these YouTube street. If you're on LinkedIn and you need me, I always try to give everybody at least 15 minutes. Just ping me on LinkedIn. I'm out there. Once again, I'm always using study our GRC, bothering those guys. Once again, I'm out. Everybody have a